All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sapphire Ingle, and this is Lovely Literature and Other Talks. Today's episode is about New York. Yay, New York! Um, New York is a place I have visited twice in my lifetime already. And upon visiting the second time, I realized it feels like another country sometimes, especially because I'm from Kansas. And it's like a I live in like the suburb part, and if you travel other places and you go to other states, like sometimes you'll forget that you're like, sorry, I don't know. All right, so New York. Dogs in New York, they always are getting in their fitness because they have to walk around. People too. Oh my god, on my recent trip to New York, me and Dallin, because we went for our anniversary last year, we were so tired because we were walking around everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I understand why everyone here is skinny. Because they're walking around all the time. Yeah. Crazy. I would be skinny if I lived in New York. That's what's missing. But yeah, my first trip was with my parents, and I'm looking at the photos right now actually because we did quite a few stuff. One of my favorite things was the Friends experience, and like three of the photos are from the Friends experience, which basically they like recreated the Friends set. And you get to walk around and take photos, and they have a whole bunch of facts and everything. And I have photos and everything from it. I have so many photos. But it was nothing quite like it, just walking around and being like, oh my god, this is like I'm here. Like I'm literally on the Friends set right now. I feel like a character's gonna walk out right now. um but yeah, New York is an important city to me because I always thought I would move there one day. Now I don't think so, but I I always wanted to maybe potentially move there. And then there's also it's just such a different city from anything else. And New York just so happens to be the subject of so many films and movies, TV shows, books, poems, all of them. And specifically, my favorites are often set in New York. Friends, I already mentioned, great show. Gossip Girl is also up there. And When Harry Met Sally, oh, love that movie. Love that movie. But yeah, so that's some of the different media that is set in New York that is just my favorite. It's such a magical city, and I thought I'd. Oh, what I'm reading this week. So, I'm reading the book Happy Place by Emily Henry. I said I wanted to read a book before Valentine's Day that was kind of lovey, and Emily Henry just loves to do those rom coms. She's just such a good writer. 10 out of 10. That's what I'm reading right now. For class, I'm also reading Darius the Great. That book was okay. I'm still in the middle of reading it, and it's definitely not bad. I just would never read it if it wasn't for class, partially because it's like a kid's book. But I'm not against reading kids' books. I think it's just like very clearly not made for me at all. And the writing isn't quite my favorite, but it's still a pretty good book, and I feel like if it's directed towards you as an audience, you definitely like it more. I'd have no way to really relate to the character, which is fine, it's chill. It makes the story slightly less compelling because I don't have too much skin in the game, if that makes sense. But it's like fairly well written, and I just got 100 pages in, and I was like, let me see if I can find an audiobook of this so I can like clean my house and go to the gym while I listen to this book. And it's not bad. It's like it's like a book you read for school, you know, or it's just like, okay, I'm forced to read this. That type of thing. But yeah. So I've got this book of new poems that are set in New York that I bought when I was in New York, actually. So I'm going to read off a few poems from there. And then I also... Oh, Sex in the City. Sex in the City is also another show. And it was initially a book / column that was made in New York. So there's that too. Shout out Sex in the City. Alright. So this is a book of poems I got from New York. It's just called Poems of New York from Every Man's Library Pocket Poets. And so I'll probably read off the poem and then tell you who wrote it. I'm going to start with these poems, and then I may or may not do another reading. And then I will also read my own New York story, which is just about it. It's just like I wrote it for my creative writing class, and it's just about my most recent trip to New York and kind of what New York means to me in general. It was like a journal or something. I forget the actual word for it, but yeah. Upper Broadway. The leaf bud straggles forth toward the frigid light of the air shaft. This is faith. This pale extension of a day, when looking up, you know something is changing. Winter has turned, though the wind is colder. 3 streets away, a rooftop collapses onto people who thought they still had time out of mind. I have written so many words, wanting to live inside of you, to be of use to you. Now I must write for myself, for this blind woman scratching the pavement with her wand of thought. This slippered crone inching on icy streets, reaching into wire trash baskets, pulling out what was thrown away and infinitely precious. I look at hands and see they are still unfinished. I look at the vine and see the leaf bud inching towards life. I look at my face in the glass and see a half-born woman. That poem was by Adrienne Rich. Just a New York poem. I wanted to take your hand and run with you, together toward ourselves down the street to your street. I wanted to laugh aloud and skip the notes past the marquee advertising Woman in Love, past the record shop with The Spirit in the Dark, past the smoke shop, past the park and no parking signs today, past the people watching me in my blue velvet, and I don't remember what you wore, but only that I didn't want anything to be wearing you. I wanted to give myself to the cyclone that is your arms, and left you in the eye of my hurricane and know the calm before. In some fall evening, after the cocktails and the very expensive and very bad steak served with day-old baked potatoes, and the second cup of coffee taken while listening to the rejected violin player, maybe some fall evening when the taxis have passed you by and that light sort of rain that occasionally falls in New York begins, you'll take a thought and laugh out loud, the notes carrying all the way over to me, and we'll run again together, toward each other. Yes? That was by Nikki Giovanni. This one is going to have a little, not really trigger, but I just wanted to preface it and say it reflects kind of the current state of our world right now, which this episode might be out when more stuff is happening or something like that. But the state of the world right now, and with our current presidency, I wanted to kind of share this poem because it's really disheartening what's happening right now. And maybe I'll talk about it more after I read the poem and kind of get my head straight. But right now there's kind of huge deportation stuff happening and some illegal immigrants being shipped to Guantanamo Bay, and it's a really scary time, and I feel very helpless in a way that I could help them, but I'm kind of just watching it all happen. Refugee blues. Say this city has 10 million souls. Some are living in mansions, some are living in holes. Yet there's no place for us, my dear, yet there's no place for us. Once we had a country, and we thought it fair. Look in the atlas, and you'll find it there. We cannot go there now, my dear, we cannot go there now. In the village churchyard there grows an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. Old passports can't do that, my dear, old passports can't do that. The council banged the table and said, if you've got no passport, you're officially dead. But we are still alive, my dear, but we are still alive. Went to a committee, they offered me a chair, asked me politely to return next year. But where shall we go today, my dear, but where shall we go today? Came to a public meeting, the speaker got up and said, if we let them in, they will steal our daily bread. He was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. Thought I heard the thunder rumbling in the sky. It was Hitler over Europe saying they must die. Oh, we were in his mind, my dear. Oh, we were in his mind. Saw a poodle in a jacket fastened with a pin. Saw a door opened and a cat let in. But they weren't German Jews, my dear, but they weren't German Jews. Went down to the harbor and stood upon the quay. Saw a fish swimming as if they were free. Only 10 feet away, my dear, only 10 feet away. Walked through a wood and saw the birds and the trees. They had no politicians and sang at their ease. They weren't the human race, my dear. They weren't the human race. Dreamed I saw a building with 1,000 floors, 1,000 windows, and 1,000 doors. Not one of them was ours, my dear. Not one of them was ours. Stood on a great plain in the falling snow. 10,000 soldiers marched to and fro, looking for you and me, my dear, looking for you and me. That one was by W.H. Auden. Part of New York's symbols and its ideas is Ellis Island and the place people would go when they finally got into the country. And I feel like America is a country that's quite literally built on immigrants, and the fact that we're deporting people away in pretty gruesome ways and pretty unforgiving ways when they're just trying to create a better life for their family. And they take the very small, and I'm sure it's very small, data set and collection of the few and justify just ripping these families apart is really, really disheartening, because America is supposed to be a melting pot of all these different cultures. And without them, what are we stuck with? And furthermore, this land did not belong to us at first. We actually created a genocide before we even came here, or when we came here, before our country was even ours. So it's crazy for us to be go back to your country, don't you dare come here, when we did the same thing. Crazy. Anyway, very sad. Okay. Hopefully I'll find some organization, put it in my bio if anyone wants to donate to help immigrants. Yeah. Let me please look into my window. Let me please look into my window on 103rd Street one more time, without crying, without tearing the satin, without touching the white face, without straightening the tie or crumpling the flower.
Let me walk up Broadway, past Saks, past the Melody Fruit Store, past Stein Eyes, past the New Moon Inn, past the Olympia. Let me leave quietly by gate 29 and fall asleep as we pull away from the ramp into the tunnel. Let me wake up happy and let me know where I am. Let me lie still. As we turn left, as we cross the water, as we leave the light. That one is by Gerald Stern.
Alright, I'm gonna do this other reading as well. It is from The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weinsberger, and I'm just gonna read the first few pages of the book. And The Devil Wears Prada, sorry. If you don't know, it's basically about this really stern boss in the fashion industry that someone who, her name is Andy, the main character, she's supposed to kind of be not like other girls. She doesn't care about fashion, doesn't care about it, but she gets caught into the allure of everything through her internship with Miranda Priestley, the famous fashion director of the magazine. And it's also a movie with, Anne Hathaway, sorry, and then, so it stars Anne Hathaway as the main character, Andy, and then Emily Blunt is another character in the movie, and then Meryl Streep plays Miranda Priestley. Such a good movie, Give it a watch. The book is kind of just the same as the movie, with just more words and a little bit more context of everything. It's one of the books. There are some movie to book adaptations where they take the book and then just take one general concept from the book and then be like, it's based off of this book, like The Vow. The Vow is exactly like that. I read the book for The Vow. You don't have to read it. It's very much, and it's weird because they're not even together anymore. So sad. Oh, I watched The Vow last year for Valentine's Day. The Vow is a good movie, though. That has Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams in it. Very good movie. The book is not very good because it's just not. You okay? Huh? Go drink some water. What's wrong? Bella. Do you need to go? Sorry, my dog was dying. I think she's okay now. She looks very cute. Okay. Beware of all enterprises that require new clothes. Henry David Thoreau, Walden, 1854. The light hadn't even officially turned green at the intersection of 17th and Broadway before an army of overconfident yellow cabs roared past the tiny death trap I was attempting to navigate around the city streets. Clutch, gas, shift. Neutral to first or first to second, release clutch. I repeated over and over in my head the mantra, offering little comfort and even less direction amid the screeching midday traffic. The little car bucked wildly twice before it lurched forward through the intersection. My heart flip-flopped in my chest without warning. The lurching sound evened out, and I began to pick up speed. Lots of speed. I glanced down to confirm visually that I was only in second gear, but the rear end of the cab loomed so large in the windshield that I could do nothing but jam my foot on the brake pedal so hard that my heel snapped off. Shit. Another pair of $700 shoes sacrificed to my complete and utter lack of grace under pressure. This clocked in as my third such breakage this month. It was almost a relief when the car stalled. I'd obviously forgotten to press the clutch when attempting to brake for my life. I had a few seconds, peaceful seconds, if one could overlook the angry honking and varied forms of the word fuck being hurled at me from all directions, to pull off my Manolos and toss them in the passenger seat. There was nowhere to wipe my sweaty hands except for the suede Gucci pants that hugged my thighs and hips so tightly that they'd begun to tingle within minutes of my securing the final button.
My fingers left wet streaks across the supple suede that swamped the tops of my now numb thighs, attempting to drive this 84,000 stick shift convertible through the obstacle-fraught streets of Midtown at lunch break pretty much demanded that I smoke a cigarette. "Fucking move, lady!" Hollowed a swarthy driver whose chest hair threatened to overtake the wife beater he wore. "What do you think this is? Fucking driving school? Get out of the way!" I raised a shaking hand to give him the finger, then turned my attention to the business at hand, getting nicotine coursing through my veins as quickly as possible. My hands were moist again with sweat, evidenced by the matches that kept slipping onto the floor. The light turned green just as I managed to touch the fire at the end of the cigarette, and I was forced to leave it hanging between my lips as I negotiated the intricacies of clutch gas shift. Neutral to first or first to second, release clutch. The smoke wafting in and out of my mouth with each and every breath. It was another 3 blocks before the car moved smoothly enough for me to remove the cigarette. It was already too late. The precariously long line of spent ash had found its way directly to the sweat stain on the pants. Awesome. But before I could consider that, counting the Manolos, I'd wrecked $3,100 worth of merchandise in under 3 minutes, my cell phone bleated loudly, and as if the very essence of life itself didn't suck enough at that particular moment, the caller ID confirmed my worst fear. It was her, Miranda Priestley, my boss. Andrea, can you hear me, Andrea?" She trilled the moment I snapped my Motorola open. No small feat, considering both of my bare feet and hands were already contending with various obligations. I propped the phone between my ear and shoulder and tossed the cigarette out the window, where I narrowly missed hitting a bike messenger. He screamed out a few highly unoriginal "fuck yous" before weaving forward. "Yes, Miranda. Hi, I can hear you perfectly." "Andrea, where's my car? Did you drop it off at the garage yet?" The light ahead of me blessedly turned red and looked as though it might be a long one. The car jerked to a stop without hitting anyone or anything, and I breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm in the car right now, Miranda, and I should be at the garage in a few minutes." I figured she was probably concerned that everything was going well, so I reassured her that there were no problems whatsoever, and we should both arrive shortly in perfect condition. "Whatever," she said briskly, cutting me off mid-sentence. "I need you to pick up Madeline and drop her off at the apartment before you come back to the office." Click. The phone went dead. I stared at it for a few seconds before I realized that she deliberately hung up because she had provided all the details I could hope to receive. Madeline. Who the hell was Madeline? Where was she at the moment? Did she know I was to pick her up? Was she going back to Miranda's apartment? And why on earth, considering Miranda had a full-time driver, housekeeper, and nanny, was I the one that had to do it? I feel like that story, you really got the hustle and bustle of New York. Yeah, and also, sorry there's cussing. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I just got a wave of just being tired. But I've still got one more story to share with you, and that is my own story. Okay, so I forgot the name at first, but it is called A Literary Narrative. And I'll just go ahead. Alright, now I'm gonna read my literary journalism, the final I did for my creative writing class. Welcome to New York. The blonde little girl with not a care in the world but the ice cream that got more on her face than in her mouth. The old lady who is knitting to pass the time on the subway. The fashion trendy besties who have met up once again to update on the drama that had taken place since the last time they saw each other. Lastly, a couple on their 1-year anniversary trip to a city that never sleeps. In New York, this is all that crosses my mind. People's lives intertwine with one another while they pass each other on the busy streets. When I suggested New York as our anniversary trip, I didn't think about how cramped the city streets were, or even the restaurants, though that became adamant soon enough. What I look back on most when I remember the trip is seeing New York in its true form. The infamous city that never sleeps, a city of dreams, and a city I thought I would someday move to. New York is a unique city with so much to offer, including a glimpse into others' lives and an intimate reminder that we are all just living on the same planet. Hotel Mimosa in Chinatown is full of raving reviews. It is set with a Roku TV and some five-star toiletries. Even this doesn't stop the hotel from being cramped inside of New York. I wake up the first morning and people watch. There are people rushing to their jobs and sitting outside and feeding some infamous pigeons. The city is already moving and we just woke up. Talon, my boyfriend, had never been to New York before and had spent the night prior researching to his heart's content. He finds a place online with fish bread and insists on going there. We try to find it as I follow him and he follows Google Maps. Eventually, we get a little lost and we stop so we can look at the map again. I take in the gray landscape and across the road notice that there is someone getting out of his car. He spots us and says loud enough for us to hear, "Welcome to New York." Wow! It's obvious we are tourists. Can't even hide that fact for a second. The man is so used to identifying tourists in his home city, he barely bats an eye. Just a friendly welcome to the obvious Midwesterners. I had been to New York one time before and therefore was an expert compared to my boyfriend. One of my favorite parts of my last trip was Ellen's Stardust Diner, and it was one of the first things I added to our list. After we spent the day at the Statue of Liberty, we waited in line with everyone else this busy Thursday night. In-laws were meeting one another for the first time as I looked up random trivia for Talon and I to do while we waited. The specialty of this diner is the unmatched talent of the servers. Not only will you get your food on time, but you will also get to be serenaded with different musical style songs, as each of the servers is an inspiring Broadway professional. They wore black and white uniforms, and each of them performed as if they were on stage instead of in between restaurant booths. The night we went, one of the servers had just reached her dream. She got cast in Wicked as Nessa Rose, and that night was her last night there. Each person was giving the performance of their lives, 110%, because they were in New York, so close to their dreams they could taste it. I also thought about the lives they led. There were a few servers that were there the time I went before, 2 years prior. I wondered if they had any big breaks in between, or if they recognized me at all. Our server was someone I had seen before, and she had blue and pink streaks in her hair. She even sang the same song, "Don't Lose Your Head" from Six. I once thought I would be one of those streamers moving to NYC, as theater has always been close to my heart. Watching people do what they love and knowing it's what I love too is an amazing experience. I felt so close to the dreamers in New York as they paved their own path in this world. They just happen to find themselves in the city of dreams alongside tourists every night. The next day we got on the subway and we had been subway riding most of the day. Tired from walking and subway hopping to one train and another train to get to Brooklyn. Finally, we find some open seats, and we know we are going to be riding for a second, so Talon and I sit. The subway is crammed, and at the next stop, the doors slide open as more people join. Among them is a shorter old woman with fluffy blonde hair, a redhead 30-something man, and a Gen Z girl. The redhead turns to Talon with barely a second to spare and says, "Would you mind getting up for this lady so she can sit?" The old fluffy-haired lady responds before Talon can. "Oh, no, I'm fine. I only have one stop, so," she says in a thick Jersey accent, obviously not wanting to talk to the redhead and only responding out of politeness. The redhead then replies and begins to go on and on about muttering how this generation is no longer kind. "Someone needs to teach this generation manners," he mutters. The fluffy-haired woman replies, "Believe me, I know this generation. I just retired as a teacher." The whole time, Talon and I make eye contact with the girl our age, the Gen Z girl who is sitting across from us. Her eyes acknowledge the odd redhead's rage about a generation. Her eyes seem to say, "Oh my god, I am so sorry this crazy person is just talking just to talk." The redhead continues, going on and on about our disrespect. Eventually, the teacher gets off of her stop, like she said, as the redhead's insults sink into me. He should be embarrassed, making snap judgments about people he hardly knows. This outward rudeness is new to me. I'm from the Midwest, and here we are accustomed to niceties. Saying excuse me on the street or muttering sorry when you run into someone. It felt like an out-of-world experience being there. Once the teacher leaves, I see a seat open up next to Talon, and the redhead takes it. I see another woman, slightly older, get on. He doesn't offer his seat to her. Seems like he was just upset for no reason other than he wasn't given a seat on the subway. In New York, people don't waste time being nice to your face. They're always moving. In the Midwest, your generation might be the gossip your relatives indulge in without you present. Aunt Kathy might mention during Thanksgiving how little Bobby is too attached to that iPad to anyone but little Bobby's mother. In New York, they say their insults right to your face. A city like that is irreplaceable. NYC is full of dreamers, tourists, and honest people who aren't afraid to tell you that your generation is hopeless. New York is intimate, as everyone is up close to one another and can't help it but be honest. It felt like an out-of-world experience being there. There are so many people who live in NYC. One day, there's someone singing their heart out in the subway. The next, it is silent except for the automated voice telling you what stop is next. The tourists swarm the city as different languages are spoken all around, representing the different variety of cultures. People move there with the intention of being someone new in the big city and making their dreams come true. Visiting a place filled with lives is an awe-inspiring trip to remind you everyone is simply living. Whether it's the angry man on the subway or the lovely guy who made it his mission to welcome you to New York. Alright, thanks. That one, I'm actually rereading it. I'm actually quite proud of it. I remember this teacher I wrote for this class was extremely hard on me. And I worked really hard on this assignment, and I got a pretty good grade. She was a really tough teacher, and I had her for 2 classes. But one thing she was really tough about was not just the writing, but the formatting of everything. And I remember being so shocked that, like, she really liked this, like, after I went through it for a rough draft and went through it for this final draft, that she didn't, like, I think I got an A on it. I'd have to double check that. But in my mind, I got an A. It feels like an A type of work, which was validating to get as a writer. Yeah, New York. And looking back on this just reminds me of I still feel those same things about New York, and I even forgot a little bit of that trip. So rereading it, I can like kind of remember some of the funnest things. Oh my god. Another story is how Talon and I went to Times Square during that trip, and we went on the taxi, the pedicab drivers in Times Square. 8 minutes. Or sorry, $8 a minute. We spent like 7-8 minutes there, and on the last few minutes, Talon was like, Can we get up? Can we get up? And he was like, oh, you want to change the song? And we were like, no, we want to get up. We want to actually leave. And yeah, and he was pretending like he didn't understand what Talon was saying because he wanted that extra minute. But yeah, $56. Do not recommend. I think Talon just said he accidentally made eye contact with him. We got a really nice photo out of it, though. Really expensive photo, but one of my favorite photos. Because there weren't a lot of people that I trusted to take a photo with our phone in New York. But yeah, everything I said in there really, really stands true today, though. That New York's just a city with other people in it, and it's so cramped that you can't help but people watch, and you can't help but feel the human experience while you're immersed in the city. Oh, rereading that makes me want to go back. Maybe one day. Alright, well, that is the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you liked the 2 different varieties we had. I had, just me, that I had of stuff to show you. And yeah, and I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you again in like 2 weeks. Alright, bye.